Hi guys, it's Luton here, and okay, I haven't had this for ages. Back with a late night randoms, and for those of you who don't know, because it's actually been so long, I've gained quite a lot of subs since I last did this. It's a podcast series, much like my roundtable one, where I just chat with another producer and we discuss any topics. Doesn't have to be Battlefield. It can be any gaming topics or just any topics. Actually, it's just literally a bit of a chat. So today, okay. Apparently, I've been outbid on eBay. So today I'm joined by Jake in Intheworksmedia. Hi, mate. Good to have
What's
you back
going
again. Right. Okay.
What are you bidding on eBay?
It's a badge of a buzzard because I like I like pin badges, and I've got a collection of bird pin badges, and they're really awesome. So I've got all different kinds, and someone's bidding against me on this thing, so I'm just going to actually leave it for a few days and they'll forget about it, and then I'll bid them up. So I just put one now because I was thinking, I'll do one now. They're not going to be up at like this time of the night. Yeah, okay, immediately outbid. So whoever that is, it's probably the auto thing though. That's what it is. Anyway, right. So come on, tell me your news because I want to hear about this.
Well, which news? The new PC or?
Let's hear the Wii because I'm so curious about this. Right? Okay, Jake has bought a Wii U, right? Let's just put that on the table. What was your rationale? Like, what made you like? Do you have a Wii or?
I did, yeah. I bought the Wii the night it released. I sat outside and waited for it. Because if you recall, like it was like shortages on the Wii.
Yeah.
Because I've always bought the new Nintendo consoles. I mean, that's my thing. Always has been. Is like when I don't play on my PC, I play Nintendo consoles.
Yeah.
Like the only reason I really had an Xbox back in the day was for Halo, and that kind of blossomed into me playing a little bit of Battlefield on there. But when it came down to it, like PC gaming was what I did. So the console side of things has always been Nintendo. And I watched the E3 conference and I kept joking. I was like, man, out of all these people, you've got like Sony and Microsoft sitting there arguing it with each other basically. And you've got Nintendo, and Nintendo basically came out and was like, look, we know our console wasn't selling well, but that's our fault. So we're going to put out a lot of good games. We're going to focus on making the gamer happy. And all their release, the next year is just packed for the Wii U. I mean, you've got Wind Waker HD, Pikmin. What was the other game I wanted? Oh, the Super Mario Land 3D, or not 3D, just Super Mario Land Wii U or whatever, which looks awesome because there's like playability on that, and then there's like some X Heroes game that looked really cool. So,
I'm not adverse to it, and actually, it's kind of interesting that you say that you play focus mainly on PC, and then like Wii is kind of like your relaxing sort of system, if you like. And it's kind of curious. I guess the main reason probably why I didn't go that route myself is because I had like my PlayStation, which had a lot of games which were kind of fun as well as the kind of more serious stuff. But then I do have some games. I know people will laugh at this, but I do have some games on my Mac that actually work. Like I've got like Fast and Light, Minecraft. They're cool games, and they work okay. I've got to tell, just to throw, as an aside here, I think that Apple have like seriously sold themselves short when it comes to sort of gaming and stuff, because they've created systems which appeal to a lot of people in terms of their kind of OS usability and so on, and I still like them for that, and I still like their build and all the rest of it. But I'm getting a gaming PC, as a lot of people know now, as well. But the thing with Wii, I've got a Wii and I enjoyed it a lot. But I used to be like big Nintendo as well. Okay, it was like my second sort of platform, Sony, Nintendo. I love Nintendo. I've talked about this, and this is a good time to talk about this because I've wanted to for a while actually. So it's very convenient that you had this topic today. But I've had loads of Nintendo systems. Okay, SNES, N64, GameCube. Got a couple of different Game Boy variations and things like that, like the Advance. And I've got a classic Game Boy I bought the other day off eBay. £20, which is about whatever, $35 maybe. I got it with like 12 games or something as well. It's really cool. It's really cool when I'm going to work and I'm on the tube going to work and I'm sitting there with like proper old school Game Boy. It's like the grey one as well. None of this yellow nonsense, and it's a proper brick. And there's people looking at me like, he's got an actual Game Boy. So it's really, really, for the people that know what that is anyway. But but when it comes to Nintendo, like a lot of people kind of said that the GameCube was never like. I mean, it wasn't a big seller, was it, at the time? Like, it didn't.
GameCube was it was surprising. I think
I didn't get
I
why
was
it didn't
actually looking.
sell.
I was talking about this actually with one of my friends because we were at a used game shop recently, and I was
Mm.
looking at some games, and really what renewed my interest in getting a Wii U was like I was thinking about all the GameCube games that I liked, and
Yeah,
the GameCube had a lot of good games.
yeah.
Like I would say it blew the Xbox out of the water. I mean, obviously it was tough competition with the PS2. I mean, that was
It was
probably
so
the
cheap as well. Do you remember how cheap it was when it came out? It was like I can't think of a reason.
$199, wasn't it?
It was over here in the UK. I guarantee. I bought my my GameCube for I think it was about £70. So I guess that translates, if you sort of double it up, it's probably, yeah, like $130, $140, but depends on the exchange rate at the time because it was a while ago. But yeah, it was not a lot of money. And I was sort of like, wow, for this console, I can't think, at the time as well, when the original PlayStation came out, it was a lot more than that.
Yeah.
It was,
I mean,
it was almost double the money.
it sold almost the same amount as the original Xbox. A lot of people don't
Yeah,
realize that it was pretty close.
yeah.
Xbox just had Halo, and really, if it didn't have Halo, it would not have come
Yeah.
nearly as close.
I think the thing is as well, because obviously Xbox was like a completely new venture, and a lot of people at the time, and that thing was a solid, it was a big old machine, and I think a lot of people at the time kind of were like, "What, mama?" There was not a lot of faith initially there. So, but yeah, the GameCube, I don't understand why it didn't sell so well because it was so good. 4 controller ports. The controllers for GameCube were nice as well. I really like them.
I love them.
Yeah, there's tons of games that were really, really good, and the price of it, like I was like, I can't actually think of a reason not to buy this. Like I didn't, and at the time as well, I wasn't like working tons and tons or anything like that. So, I was only kind of youngish, so it was not like I had huge disposable income, but it was so well priced that I was like, I can totally buy this and it's not a problem. But the sad thing is over time, I kind of became like now disillusioned with Nintendo. So maybe you can restore my faith a little, or maybe even pull me around on this one because it was like with the Wii, they just kind of lost me totally. They really did, and I don't know.
I think they've kind of recovered from that because I think what it was is you probably felt like they catered more to the casuals.
Yeah, so much.
Well, I mean, that's how I felt for the longest time, but I sat down and thought about it, and I think Nintendo's actually done the best job out of the three big teams, Sony, Nintendo, Microsoft, of balancing out casual with hardcore because they pump out games that big fans are going to like, but they also pump out games that can appeal to anyone. And I think a good example of a team of people doing it poorly is Microsoft, because Microsoft is forcing the Kinect on people. And I would argue the Kinect is like a very casual.
Yeah, so much. It's not going to have any
Yeah.
real applications for proper games, It's...
Yeah, like Nintendo, on the other hand, like Wii Fit, if you wanted that was a separate thing. Like, the Wii Motion Plus, that was something that, I mean, some of the games did require it, but a lot of times that kind of thing was for like the dancing games and crap like that. So, I mean, that was a separate thing that you could totally decide if you wanted it or not.
Yeah.
And then they actually get to the point where they built it into their controllers, so it wasn't even an issue. But, I mean, across the board, like, because I recently also bought a 3DS. For different games I wanted to play. I was looking at their lineup. I looked at their E3 message, and they were basically like, look, we know that a lot of people felt like we kind of went off the track trying to appeal to, the casual player, but we've got a lot of good games coming. We're going to focus on making good games. And they just sold me on that. I mean, I think a lot of people felt like Nintendo had the upset special of E3.
Yeah, I just worry, like, sometimes when companies do something real bad, and take note, Microsoft, you alienate people, and then it's almost too late. Like, loads of people I saw after the Microsoft thing, and I'm not just having another bash at Microsoft here, after all that total debacle, there were loads of, even when they changed it back again, there was loads of people going, too late, I've made my mind up. And it's kind of like, even if you kind of fix the problem, a lot of people you've sort of damaged your image, and therefore they lose their kind of consumer faith, and which is important at the moment when people are trying to, decide where to spend their money and so on. And I guess, like, with Nintendo, it's funny, right? Because like I hear what you're saying, and all those games sound awesome, and I like the concept, but something just doesn't kind of feel right with me anymore. Like, I just kind of feel like, they're not what they used to be. I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. But I will say this, I still respect them a lot for being genuinely creative, because PlayStation and Xbox, they've got a lot of new cool stuff, yeah, for sure. But redesigning the controllers, not really. They haven't really done any kind of proper sort of system design. It's all kind of internal software elements and things like that, like the Gaikai and things, which
Yeah.
isn't even Sony's idea. They just sort of adapt. They've just bought it and just put it in the system. Whereas with the Wii, they've really done something kind of clever there, and I do like the fact that it has like a full kind of touchpad thing,
Yeah,
in
it's
there.
really nice.
I really love the idea, and there are many applications to which that could be used. I think it's an awesome concept. I really like it. So
I
yeah, I
actually
mean,
would love to see Battlefield on there, Battlefield 4, because I was saying this in a video I did in the live stream with Zento. I was like, hey, you guys should totally consider, Battlefield 4 on this, because could you imagine being able to use that for Commander? I
it would
mean,
be
that's like,
cool. It would be cool, but I mean, like, is it powerful enough? Like,
oh,
would
it could,
it?
it could, yeah. I mean, a lot of the problem they have with the system specs. I mean, it's stronger than an Xbox 360 um,
Well,
or
is it
like
basically
a
like,
PS3. So I mean, it
yeah,
would have to have the lower end version of Battlefield 4, but it's still obviously a little bit lower than like, well, I don't probably a substantial amount lower than like the Xbox One and the PS4. But I don't think they built the Wii U to be a direct competitor. I think it
no,
was a
no, no, yeah.
graphical pickup, and I don't think that they really thought the Wii U was going to be like another 5 years. Because typically, if you look at Nintendo, they usually like the Wii U and the Wii, like the space between the two was one of the longest ever.
Mm.
Because you had SNES, and then like what was it, 5 years later you had the N64, and
I
then
think they said as
N64 only
well.
lasted like 3.5 years or something.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the lifespan of things has changed around a little bit now because of at the end of the PlayStation 2, many people may not remember because it was a while back. But at the end of PlayStation 2, Sony kind of basically was like, okay, we're going to run on a kind of longer life cycle than we have ever before now, because at the end of PlayStation 2, they realized, hey, like a lot of game devs are only now starting to understand what they can get out of the maximized, sort of optimized version of the system. So they were producing the best games at the end of the system. And if you look at PlayStation 3 right now, this is the same. Okay, if you look at Battlefield 3, although yeah, that came out a little while ago now, but still amazing game. If you look at, for example, Grand Theft Auto 5 and all these other titles, compare that to the first year or two of when these originally came out. Now, there's obviously other things going on there as well, like just natural game development software itself advances, and other things become aware, and they learn how they can get more polygons out of things, and so on and so on. So it's more technology moves on at the same time. But even so, that's just as much reason as actually people understanding the system well as well to get more out of it. And I think maybe the system won't have to have such as long lifespan this time around because of the way they've built the new next-gen consoles. So with like the PlayStation and the Xbox One, because the architecture is easier to work with, it means that probably they won't have to wait so long before they upgrade again, because software devs, etc., will hopefully be able to, software devs, game devs will be able to hopefully get more out of the system early on, rather than sort of having to struggle and sort of slowly advance over time. But when it comes to the Wii, one thing I wanted to ask was, when it comes to, like, for example, the hard drive and space and stuff, I heard that was a problem, like when they actually
Well, I mean,
released, like,
you
can
can
you?
expand it on your own. Like you can use SD cards. There's an SD card slot. So essentially, what you could do is you can buy your own memory. Which, I mean, if you're buying your own memory, it's a lot cheaper than what you're gonna pay if you want like a 500 gigabyte Xbox.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can get some SD cards, and you don't have to always have the same game on there. You can pop one out and pop a new one in. I
So
don't
it's like old
know
school memory
for
cards then.
sure if you can use hard drives on the Wii U. I think I read you could, but I don't want to say it and as proven fact.
I mean,
Um,
also, like, how is their kind of online game download service
well,
for thing? Because to me, right, in my mind, that's what it should really push strongly. Like this idea of like, I imagine it to be something like a kind of social device. So therefore, I imagine that kind of aspect, like its kind of online store side, should be super strong in my opinion. And like also, it seems like a perfect platform for like kind of independent developers. You know, it really
Yeah,
does.
there's a lot of like, there's actually a really big community of indie developers on Nintendo platforms. I was a little bit skeptical, but then I was looking at some of the titles and some of the stuff that um, people had been writing about the indie store, and there's actually a lot of really dedicated developers that only really focus on the Nintendo platform.
Yeah.
But I mean, the store, it's a little underwhelming in some designs, but I mean, compared to the previous offerings from Nintendo, it's actually like 5 or 6 steps forward in the right direction. I mean,
Does it have a
you
big
can,
back catalog as well? Does it have like
yeah,
a?
I mean, though it has all the Wii back catalog. So you can go into the old Virtual Console that was on the original Wii and buy any of those games.
Yeah.
And you can use the Wii controller to do that. And they're upgrading the Wii U games, so there's going to be different games that are just for the Wii U that you can also buy. So I mean, they have a pretty large back catalog when you combine the two. And I mean, you can buy games on demand. So let's say you live somewhere where it's hard to find a certain game. You don't really feel like ordering it a lot online. You can actually download it. You can pay for it and download it. Now I know a lot of people are against that, just because you don't get a physical copy. But I mean, if you're used to Steam, a lot of times that's not really that big of a deal.
I think things are going the way of digital. In fact, I think it's only a matter of time, really. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is a bad thing for some people. And personally, I would prefer things to be kept in a kind of hard copy style, just because I prefer that. And I like the fact that you actually have a physical game and you're like, okay, this is it. But I think things will ultimately go towards digital completely. I've had this conversation multiple times. I don't know exactly what's going to push it over. I'm actually kind of, if you look at kind of how things have been for game shops recently in general, it's not been good for them. They've really struggled. I mean, the main game company here in the UK, Game, which is what it's called, their flagship stores have had to close. They had to lay off tons of staff. It's not been a good deal for them at all. And they've really struggled. So I think that, as much as anything else, might end up killing off like hard copies, because if you don't have stores to sell them. Now I know you can sell them online, Amazon, etc., but I think it'll be more like kind of, sort of the pieces of the puzzle, and eventually it all sort of falls apart. But yeah, coming back to the Wii U, I don't know, so it's a tricky one. I think it depends more on kind of your state of gaming as much as anything else. Like, I think the way I play games has kind of altered slightly. It's a shame. Like, I think back to when I was younger. I mean, have like sort of 4, 5, 6 friends around the house, and you'd all like have. And the N64 was the best for that, because obviously you could have 4 sort of controllers plugged in at the same time. You could actually do that with the PlayStation 2 and. PlayStation 2, yeah, as well. Was the PlayStation 2 out at the same time as N64, or was it just the PS1?
I think they may have slightly overlapped.
Yeah,
I mean, the
they did overlap a
N64
bit,
was the last N64 game was made in 2002. It was like
yeah.
Madden football.
I think they definitely did overlap a bit.
I think that
'cause
shows how
remember
much I like Nintendo. I know
yeah,
that.
yeah, seriously. But no, it's just because I remember that for the PlayStation, you could also get, although it only had 2 slots for controllers, you could get like a 4-way adapter as well, so you could use 4
Oh
controllers.
yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah.
Because that was like the biggest limitations. No, I didn't play PlayStation.
No. Did you
I
ever
was
see
pretty
the
anti-Sony in the day.
Did you ever see the GameCube keyboard? Did you ever see that?
No, I know what you're talking about though.
It's hilarious. Like
My GameCube looked pretty ridiculous because I had the screen that you can mount on it, and I also had the
what's
Game
that?
Boy, the Game Boy Advance thing that goes underneath, so you can
Oh,
play Game Boy Advance games and
I
Game
remember
Boy.
that. I wanted to get that, and I just kind of never got around to it. That's actually
I still
a cool
have
idea.
it, actually.
Oh yeah, you should try. Well, I'd like to see that in action. That was cool. No, it would be really good. But it's a shame that they don't have access to like full back catalogs, and the same with Sony. It's a shame, and I know why they can't. It's because of all sorts of different licensing issues and things like that. But it's a shame because there's so many awesome N64 games which would be hilarious to have for Wii U. Think of like Conker's Bad Fur Day and Perfect Dark and all these kind of things. Jet Force Gemini was kind of semi-okay. They probably could get that if they wanted, but just don't want to.
I like that game a lot.
Oh, it was good. Yeah, it was good. I think it was it was weird. Like I didn't know why I liked it at the time. It was Turok 2. That was a great
strange
one
game.
well. Did you ever complete Turok 2? It's a pretty hard game.
Turok 2? Was that was for GameCube?
No, N64.
You know, I did play the is that the only one that was on N64?
No, Turok might have been the first one, maybe.
I think I did then, because I definitely had Turok for N64. I can't remember which one though.
Turok, they were good games, but I tell you what, using that weird ass controller that the N64 had was a pain in the ass to kind of move around and get some of the sort of weird aiming and stuff. It was because do you remember how stiff and annoying those sticks were on the N64? Like, because they had
yeah, I actually, we still play our N64. It's hooked up in the living room, and there's only like 2 or 3 controllers in there I'll use because the other ones are so sticky.
Super Smash, but we had to take ours apart multiple times to clean and sort of repowder them. I had to dismantle them completely and get like sort of new stuff in there to kind of make them soften up a bit. I think I used talcum powder in the end because it was kind of like chalky.
Oh yeah, that's what I used too.
Yeah,
talcum powder. Yeah, and my dad hooked me up back in the day with graphite. Because it would make, like, if you got graphite powder, it would actually make it run smoother.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll tell you what, it was a combination of Super Smash Bros. And Mario Party just totally killed them. Do you remember? Did you play Mario Party?
Yeah, we were actually joking about how like you can tell if you've been doing good because you'll have that mark on right under your thumb, like where your muscle is.
Yes,
because the one where you have to spin it.
Yeah, yeah. And the ones where you literally, like, we used to get the controller and you put your palm on the thing and then just run it round and round and round and round and round, and like everyone's just 4 people just sitting there going trying to that game was so bad for your health. Like everyone could end up having horrific like wrist disorders from that game because you're spinning the like stick so hard, and like for a really long time. It wasn't like sort of 10 seconds of really intense work on the joystick. You're there for like a minute or more, like really hard.
Yeah.
It was, and everyone at the end, you'd be agony. I can't feel your arm. It was totally ridiculous. Those games were not good for your health whatsoever. But no, it was cool. But I remember Super Smash Bros. Man, that was a game. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm really excited. That's one of the games that's coming down the pipe for both 3DS and Wii U.
It's good that you can do it online, but this is what I was going to say before. It's something lost there, I used to love having 4 or 5 friends around, and we would just like sit and play, and there's something totally great about having people in the room with you playing that probably, like, not trying to sound like old and but like it's something that's a bit lost now. Like, and I can imagine there's many people who maybe haven't even had the experience of having that many people in the room at the same time to game. It's just really, really a fantastic environment. And LAN tournaments and things like that are not the same because it's usually taken a bit more seriously, and people might be distributed different places around the room. So if you kill someone really hilariously, you can't turn around to them and go, you go, yeah, and everyone sort of finds it very funny and stuff. It's just not the same at all. But I used to really love those experiences, sort of having everybody together. It was really fun times,
Yep, I agree.
So tell me about your PC. Let's go on with that. So what's your new setup?
Well, it's still in the works. But
well, is it like your current system upgraded, or have you are we going full new setup?
It's a brand new one completely. It is a 2 crossfired 7970s. It's a Storm Scout white case. It's Storm Scout 2 actually. It's got a liquid cooler radiator mounted to the top.
Wow.
I've got an i7 3770. I didn't go with the new gen because
me neither.
It's not really a smart idea. Well, I take that back. It's a smart idea. I mean, I guess if you had to, but there's really no reason because they
Yeah, but
don't. There's not a
there's barely
huge.
any money difference in it, is there? That's what
Well, I mean,
that was my
honestly,
real
from
hard
what I've
point.
read, it's not really that great for desktops because like the way it consumes power, it makes it a little bit trickier to overclock. Now, I don't know any like details on that. I don't know how true
No,
that is, but
that is true. I seriously, I spent days. I spent days like miserably talking to like about every person I could find to discuss around this exact topic, but yeah, the general consensus was that the 3770 was the way to go. But I mean, between those two CPUs, whilst yeah, technically it's maybe a little bit, I would imagine that there was probably barely much in it. But again, it's sort of
it was less than 10%. And if you overclock your PC, it's really nothing then. I
yeah,
mean, if you're overclocking at that point, I mean, they're going to perform pretty similar because I mean, I got kind of unlucky with this processor. I'm still trying to figure out a good medium on the overclock. Right now, I can't. It seems like it's only getting 4.2, which is really on the low end, which is kind of a bummer. But that's just the nature of processors.
you
But
should
I think that
talk to X Factor a little bit because he's the sort of expert on that. So
I think I can probably get it pushed up to 4.4 is what I'm hoping for. But that's going to take a free weekend because there's a lot of tinkering that goes into changing your voltage and stuff. So,
yeah,
but
I'd
I'm
be
pretty
scared.
happy with it right now.
Yeah.
Being AMD, I mean, I got the AMD cards, um, and I was a little bit skeptical because I was on AMD when Battlefield 3 first came out. Then I went to the 670 for the majority of Battlefield 3 right around when they released Premium. I love my 670. I use it in my work PC still. Like I still use it, on a daily basis. But the new PC is strictly for gaming, and it's got the two 7970s in there. And the logic is it's going to be better optimized. That's what everybody keeps saying. I don't know how much stock I put into that because Nvidia is a good company. They tend to really catch up quick because they're really good about drivers. So that's the one thing I'm kind of nervous about is AMD's. They're not the same type of company when it comes to constantly pushing out drivers, whereas Nvidia,
Yeah.
they're on top of it.
Yeah,
But
because there was that big problem that everyone's been complaining about with the 700 series cards, but apparently
they fixed that really quick.
yeah, so that was really good news for people. It's good news for me as well, seeing as that's what I've got going in mine. But yeah, my setup then. So I was running with the Antec P280 case, which is the same as Levels. It's a really nice, sort of simple case, and like in my video that I did talking about it, the main focus for this sort of whole system that I wanted to do was just keep it nice and simple, nice and sort of straightforward and clean, and just kind of functional. So I went with that, and then I went with the same CPU as you, the correct motherboard, and for cooling, didn't really go with that in terms of like liquid cooling and stuff. It might be something I want to look at later, but from multiple people that I spoke to, they were like, okay, for now, like seriously, your stock will be fine, and then I can add in extra stuff. I might upgrade the fans and things like that.
Are you
So
gonna overclock it at all?
not at first, so for that
Yeah,
reason,
stock will be all right. I
yeah.
personally don't. I personally always recommend that. I mean, the stock cooler is good. Don't get me wrong, but
I
I
could get like
usually
a reasonable air one for now. Like, I mean, even that might be better, and that's not very expensive. So
yeah
maybe
because
like
you
the next month I might get that, and then like next year I might upgrade to liquid because I'm not like gonna sort of clock the CPU massively. So
I usually suggest even like for first time builders like just to go ahead and just splurge. I mean, because you can get a good cooler for like I in my 670 build I have a cooler master. What's it called? It's the
but
big cooler.
the air coolers are not massively expensive, are they? So
Yeah, it
you
was
can
only
get a
like
decent one. So
$60 or something,
yeah.
and I overclocked that PC actually,
Uh-huh.
and I don't go over like 40 degrees
Yeah,
in that one,
exactly.
which is really good considering that I've got that one running at 4.5. Now,
Yeah, I would imagine with the stock it would probably run a little bit more than that, but even then
with
you're
stock, it
still
would
kind of in
probably get
parameters.
really hot because I was doing that with stock, and it was actually getting to the point where you were having performance dips because
I
the CPU was getting too hot and slowing itself down.
Yeah, from the people, it varies. From the people I've spoken to, and I have spoken to people that know what they're talking about. A lot of people have said to me it won't run and cause any detrimental problems. But soon find out. And if it does, well, in that case, I'll just whack a better cooler in there. But I think because I'm taking it at a kind of bit by bit stage, I'm kind of interested to sort of see how things run and stuff. But I mean, it's not going to damage it or anything. It just, like you say, it might run a little bit warmer and stuff. But we'll see what happens, and it won't be a big deal if I've got to just pick up a cooler because they're not expensive. So if I have to do that, I will. But anyway, so that, and then the card was like one of the biggest deals for me. I'm only going with a single card to begin with because I didn't want to SLI straight away. And again, that was off the advice of like Level and X Factor and stuff. And they're like, yeah, you know, sort of for someone coming in initially like new like this, it's although actually I've got to say I did do PC in the past, but I'm like, you know, I haven't been keeping up to the last sort of 10, 11, 12 years of sort of hardware changes around and stuff like that. So a lot of the things I was looking at were kind of new. But yeah, from what people had said, they were like, well, SLI, it's a great thing to do, but for if you're not used to kind of a lot of the setups and so on, there's can be some funny issues there, and it's a bit better to kind of go with just one card to begin with. And the card that I've gone with should run things totally fine. So it's like EVGA, and it's a 770. So,
yeah, that's yours is the new. Like I have the 670 EVGA. That's like this last year's model, basically.
Yeah.
I could run if I wanted to Battlefield 3 on Ultra and get really solid frames, but I don't.
Well, that's the set. It's also the it's the superclocked version, and it's got the ACX cooler in as well. So it's quite a nice card, and it's basically like pretty much the best one I could get without going up to the 780. And if you go up to the 780, you're looking at another £200, sort of another $300-400. So it's a fair saving of money there. And like I say, the difference to go up to the sort of this version of that card between this and the kind of normal version of the card was only like £30-40. So again, you've kind of spent a little bit more and just got like the best that you could get. So that's really within the kind of budget. And also don't forget, because it's like a fully new setup, I had to buy everything, so I've had to also get my monitor and the keyboards and all the rest of it. So you know,
yeah, I'm pretty happy with mine, even though it is AMD. I like AMD though. Like it runs really, really good. I mean, I can get like I think between 120, 150 on Ultra, pretty consistently. I am using Crossfire though, and it does get a little bit hotter.
Yeah,
that was one of the issues I was really concerned about with this case, because I initially wasn't going to Crossfire. I was going to sell the second card, but then I got the itch and I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. And this is a smaller case because it is it's not as spread out as yours probably is.
Yeah,
it's more appealing to the eye, which does limit you on certain things. One thing that I did have problems with was the wiring on certain things. It won't reach from one end to the other just because of the way the management's designed, which was a kind of a bummer. So I do have to do some tinkering with that. But as far as the profile of the computer, it's solid white and it just looks awesome. I think it stands out. And I wanted a different case. I figured if I was going to make another PC, I wanted it to look different from like the recording PC. So it was like, you know, here's my gaming rig with, you know, the blue LEDs with the white and the red trim around it, and then here's my gaming or my work PC, recording PC, which is black and just kind of your standard case. But
no, that's a good thing. I think I know the case you're talking about as well, so it's a good setup, that one. But yeah, the good thing with the way I'm going to record is as well, and I say hopefully it'll all be fine, but basically what my plan to do is use the Elgato straight out the GPU, and then no frame loss or anything. Well, actually it has to push through the GPU to split, so you'll lose like a couple of frames or something, but to do that maybe but seriously it's like 1 or 2, and the benefit of that, you know, and the fact that it doesn't drain anything off the system whatsoever is really, really strong, and it's great. But there's other features as well. It's not just about the ease of recording, because I can run it on my Mac over here at the same time, and I've got all my recording stuff set up over here as well. But there's so many good features with Elgato which are just really beneficial over just, you know, standard screen capture and so on, like for example the sort of livecom recording features that they have and things like that, which are really, really beneficial, that I can literally plug my Yeti into that system, so that if I'm playing in game I can just livecom all the time and it'll just sync perfect all the time. So that's such a strong, you know, benefit of using that way of doing it. So I'm really looking forward to it. But where do you stand? Last thing, maybe, where do you stand on like the whole keyboard and mouse deal? Like, what was your preferred setup for that? You know,
every time someone asks me that, I always either show them a picture or link them I use a $10 K120 Logitech keyboard, and I've used probably three of these
Yeah.
because I had one that got broke when we were moving, and then because I use one on my work computer, one on the other one, so I've had three in a lifetime. And honestly, it's the best keyboard for the price because I mean, $10. I have no problem with
I think
competing with
there's so
people.
many people that just on principle would be like, no, it must be crap. Like,
But I mean, eventually I would like to get a nicer keyboard, but I mean, I really haven't seen a reason to give up on it. I mean, yeah, people will scoff and laugh at it, but I've never seen keyboards as that important.
if it
Uh,
works for you, you know.
but my mouse, that's something I'm a little bit picky about. I actually use an MMO mouse, which is the Razer Naga,
Oh
and
yeah,
I
I know
always
that.
get people
Yeah.
asking like, why do I have this set to the one key? But basically, like, I can set all my equipment, my gadgets, my weapons and stuff on the
Yeah.
number pad, and I have access to that instantly. So a lot of times, like, the default binding for some of the gadgets will be like numbers 5, 6, and 7. So I don't
Mm.
have to. I can move while I still have my my hand on the keys, and I can
Yeah.
strafe, and
Yeah. I can imagine
it
that
makes
totally being a good
reviving a lot
setup.
easier.
Yeah, I can totally imagine that being a real good setup. I mean, because for the PlayStation, I've been using the Frag FX for a while, and it's really good having the PlayStation keys on the side of the mouse, because it means you can multitask and do things that you couldn't kind of do with the PlayStation one. Just a couple of little small things are a little bit easier, like people have mentioned about arming, disarming MCOMs. It's a bit tricky to sort of arm or disarm an MCOM whilst turning and firing all at the same time on PlayStation, but with the
Yeah,
Frag
it's pretty
FX you
easy on
can kind of,
PC.
yeah, exactly. So it's a totally different skill set, and it's extremely beneficial. But something else I'll ask you right now as well, while we're talking about peripherals, the Frag FX, right? It's the sort of nunchuck and mouse setup. Yeah, you've seen it
Yeah.
before. Yeah. And so many people often mention to me about this, and they go, "Oh, it's cheating. You're totally, blah, blah. It's not fair." And you can't say that it doesn't give a benefit. It gives a benefit. Okay, it gives you a bit more control, and generally, I find it feels way more comfortable. But I got to tell you, um, people that think, "Oh, it's just you pick it up and you instantly become super good at the game." No way. Okay, it took me a long time to sort of get much better and get used to the system of working. It took me a good month probably to kind of really get in the groove. And in fact, even in the first 2 weeks, I considered, just sending it back because I didn't like the way it felt, and I was finding it really difficult to refine the kind of setup for it. Because it doesn't feel like the way people imagine it. They imagine it to basically be just like a PC, but it's not at all. Like, it's nothing like it, because if you look at PC gameplay and then look at my gameplay, you'll see, and I have my sensitivity pretty high. Like, my sensitivity on PlayStation is like up to sort of 85-90% of the sensitivity.
Oh
So
wow.
so it's pretty high. But then look at the gameplay that I have, and then see whether you think it would be that sensitive for the way I move. And basically, it's only like emulating sort of mouse control in a way, because you can't have the same kind of refined details that you do with a PC setup. It's just not the same. Like, if you look at sort of the way my guns move when I'm playing, like look at any of my recent gameplay, and then go and look at like X Factor or Level or yourself or anybody, look at the difference, and you'll see that anybody that's playing on an actual PC has extremely fine sort of movement, and it's really kind of twitchy, and it's very, very specific, and it's very accurate the way people move. Look at mine, it's much more difficult and it's much slower. And I think it's to do with the way they have built the kind of coding for sort of console to PC. So even though I'm using a mouse, it's still interpreting it as a controller. So therefore, the way you can move and the speed at which you can move is still controller based, which is why, for example, if I'm in a tank, it's a massive pain, because when you have a controller for the tank, you just hold the stick and the tank turns, or the turret turns. If I have my mouse, well, I can't set the sensitivity like I can set the sensitivity on a PC, so I have to drag my mouse like full across, and then again, and then again, and then again, and it's like a real chore. Whereas with a PC mouse, you can just do one sweep and you've turned your turret. So it's a
Hmm.
totally different setup, and there's a lot of negativity the frag effects, you cannot fly air vehicles at all. Like, you can just about fly helicopters, but if you came up against anybody that was sort of even a reasonable pilot, you're just dead, guaranteed. So whenever I want to fly, I have to change out back to the PS controller. So there's a ton of negatives with it. But what I was going to ask you was, the thing that I found interesting, I started looking around Arma, and I'm kind of excited about Arma 3, and it looks a cool game. And I like that sort of style of play, but that's a whole other discussion. But what got me onto thinking was that I've seen in Arma a couple of people I've seen talking about the sort of IR track stuff that you can wear, like the headsets and things. Have you seen those?
No.
Okay, so what it is it's like a little black plate, and it's basically like an IR reader, infrared reader. Okay. And you sit it up on top of your monitor like you would a webcam, okay, and it just sits there. It's like a little sort of, I don't know, it's like 2 inches square or something, so whatever that is, like 10 centimeters square or something. And it just sits up there. It's like a little glossy screen. And then the funny thing is you have to wear a cap, actually, whilst you're playing. It's the only way you can do it. So you have to sit there with a cap on, right, like a baseball cap. And the reason is that the peak of the cap, you mount like this little, it doesn't weigh anything, I don't think, but it's like a little metal thing that mounts onto it. And then basically the IR reader detects where that thing moves. So if you move your head left or right, it adjusts your look left and right in the screen, okay? So if you, for example, are flying a little bird in Arma, or if you're flying a transport helicopter in Arma, or whatever you're doing, if you look, you use like the free look feature like you would have in Battlefield as well. You know, have the free look, so you can turn. Okay, so imagine basically you can do that, but you can still have full control of your vehicle at the same time, and that's basically what it allows you to do. So it's effectively emulating what you could do in real life. You know, you keep full control of your vehicle, but if you need to look to the left to see if anybody's coming up to you, you can do that. Or for example, a great example that Dyslexy, he's a good Arma 3 producer, was doing. He'll fly with a little bird, and then, to stop, he obviously has to pull back real hard to sort of stop the momentum of the vehicle moving. But in doing so, obviously, if you think about it, okay, if you're looking straight forward and then you pull back, what's going to happen? You look straight up. So you lose all kind of orientation of where your vehicle is. But what he can do is, because he's got this IR track system, okay, he can look down as he pulls back, and it means that his viewpoint moves down. So he can still be spatially aware of everything and whatever's going on with the vehicle, and it allows him to have more control, like significantly more control. And he was saying, oh yeah, if you didn't have this, you just couldn't do this, and you wouldn't be as good a pilot. Now that system is going to run you like $120, but it does look pretty good, and I have to say I think it would be guaranteed worth the money if you want to be serious about sort of doing those kind of things. But what that leads me on to is basically what I'm saying with the frag FX. I mean, that gives you a significantly big advantage over other players. And within PC gaming, there's tons of different things which give you sort of little differences, like for example your mouse having all the different keys. Now some people are only going to have 2 keys. Does that mean it's unfair that you can get onto your gadgets faster than some people? I mean, for sure they can keybind them, but maybe that's not as efficient, etc. So I mean, where do you stand on this? Do you think people should be able to just kit to whatever they're comfortable with? Do you think it matters? Do you think it's not as important on PC as it is on the PS3? What do you think?
Well, I think there's obviously going to be people that care more on console, because console is a closed platform. So like typically they see as that as an unfair advantage. But I don't really think it matters on PC personally. I think it's just, you buy what you're comfortable with. I mean, I know plenty of people who use standard mouse, standard keyboard to fly the little bird, and they're like the best little bird pilots in the world. I mean, yeah. A lot of people when I first started like flying helicopters back when Battlefield 3 first came out, everyone's like, oh, you got to get a joystick, you got to get a foot pedal. I'm like, really? I mean, I don't think it's that intense. So, I learned how to fly with the mouse and keyboard, and I can do just as good as anyone else. I mean, yeah. You know who Widgety Bear is? He's probably the best little bird pilot I've ever seen in my life. So shout out to him. But, he uses a mouse and keyboard. Yeah. So I think you get what you're comfortable with. I think I understand why people are upset with console stuff, especially with like modded controllers. That's always a hot topic, because. Yeah.
What do you think then? Do you think it should just be deep? Like for example, with my system, do you think it's totally unfair? Do you think that's would that piss you off yourself?
I would, honestly, it wouldn't bother me,
Mm.
because it's not that big of an advantage. Because
Yeah.
especially
I
with,
think it has as much. I think it has as much negatives as it does positives. Like the vehicle thing, it's a huge debilitating thing for me. I can get outplayed by people with controllers if I don't sort of change up and stuff. It's really irritating. But I mean, it's a trade-off, basically. You know.
yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people who get the what is it, the X-Fire adapter,
Yeah,
where you
yeah.
can use the keyboard and mouse on console, and
Oh,
I
sure. Yeah.
mean,
There's
I
there's
don't
a
think
couple of
that.
different ones. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I think the one thing people are forgetting that at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because of auto aim, and auto aim is always going to kind of counter any sort of quote pinpoint accuracy because
You
it's
can turn
going.
it off though. That's the thing. So
Yeah,
like
I guess that is true.
if you're using that setup, like I have it turned off because you have to, because otherwise I'll be starting to track someone and all of a sudden it'll jump me and I'm like, what the, I don't want to put my aim there, so that can be quite aggravating. But what was the other thing? Oh yeah, but there's games for console that enable mouse and keyboard, like Unreal Tournament 3.
Hmm.
And that is a complete system option there. A lot of people I've seen actually posting regularly at the moment, like, oh, why don't they enable mouse and keyboard options for consoles? I'm kind of like, well, games do, and I
They
don't even
used to. I
understand.
mean,
Yeah, I
remember
don't even.
Dreamcast?
Yeah, exactly. And I don't even understand why they don't do it now. It's really weird. And do you know what else is weird? Like, I don't get why a lot of RTS games on console don't have that option as well, which seems bafflingly stupid to me. But yeah, like I say, to be honest, I would like to see, and maybe this is actually a topic that I should raise up. Actually, is I would like to see inbuilt system options to have mouse and keyboard for Battlefield 4 on PlayStation 4 and maybe Xbox One as well. And people are going to rage and be like, no, no, it'll be so unfair. Well, you just do what they did in Unreal Tournament 3. You have server settings that, you say, okay, this is controller only. Of course, the only problem with that is it's built around people's honesty, which I always thought was a flawed thing. Like on Unreal Tournament 3, this is. You basically, when you start up, you can choose what servers you want to join, and it says like mouse and keyboard, gamepad, mouse and keyboard and gamepad, so you can choose to join both. But there's no like way of checking, so it's all just based around sort of honesty, which, let's face it, I can't really imagine people being super honest about these kind of
Yeah,
things.
I used to play a lot of Unreal Tournament, actually, which is
It's just
funny you
super
brought
fun.
that up. That
Yeah,
was probably one of my favorite shooters back in
it's
like.
still really good. I jump into it every now and then, and I have to say there's nobody playing it, which is annoying. But it's a great fast game, really intense and stuff. Those kind of arena shooters are just awesome fun.
What was the one? Oh, Unreal Championship. That was probably my favorite Xbox 360 game.
Mm-hmm.
It was just there was everything I could ever possibly want in that game. It's so much so that I actually bought. I actually own a copy of it that I play every now and then on my Xbox 360 because it was a really fun game. I wish that they would make more games like that because it seems like that's a dying breed of style of shooter, and it's kind
Yeah,
of funny because Rise of the Triad's coming out soon
would you
on
classify
PC.
COD as like an arena shoot?
No, no, definitely not.
It's not, because it's got the whole class thing going on and all the specification. But I don't know. I would, yeah, you're right. I would super like to see a real good arena shooter come back. Something that's really fast and kind of crazy, because these games were always a bit stupid. And
They made that one game. What was it called? It was the one that all the machinima people were promoting. I want to say it was called like. It's a short word. It's like a four-letter word, but it was like basically the spiritual successor to the Unreal type games. And it was like just a really fast-paced arena shooter with power-ups and all
I
these
don't
sorts of
remember what that
things.
was now.
It's gonna bother me.
Yeah, it's going to bother me. I should. Four-letter word. That seems. I want to say like rage, but obviously it's not.
No, it was
Um,
like
like, because that's not an arena shooter. So I know what rage is. I have it. That's just the first thing that came into my head. We need to research this. If I was actually bothered, I would pause this right
it's
now.
Nexus.
What?
It's
Nexus. That's not
Nexus.
four.
I know
That's
I
not
was wrong.
4 at all.
I was thinking in my head like NEXS. It's Nexus. They spelled it
I don't remember
NEXUIZ.
that at all then. Don't
Yeah,
remember that.
it was pretty mediocre in my testing
Hmm.
because I have it on the PC and it's just it was just all right. But Rise of the Triad's actually coming out, which is like
Yeah.
it's an old game that I played like back in the day
Hmm.
that I think maybe good. It might be the game that
There's
I'm
been quite
looking
a bit
for.
of talk around it, quite a bit of commentary I've seen in the last sort of weeks. People sort of
Yeah.
seem quite interested in it, so be curious to see how that does. But
Yeah, it comes out in exactly 1 month from today.
yeah, but yeah, I don't know. It's curious about the whole sort of gamepad keyboard thing. I mean, like when I sort of look at other players that I play with, and there's a lot of people that are very, very good on the console side with just the gamepad and things like this. There's a lot of people who are super skilled, and the only thing that kind of pisses me a bit is that, like, I used to be pretty decent with the gamepad. Like, I would score well. I'd score as well as I do now. But now, it's like anything. If you do one other way of working, like, for example, you know how I said it took me ages to get used to the Frag FX? Well, similarly, if I go back to controller now, like, I don't do the worst. In fact, actually, I kind of tried a few rounds to sort of see how I did. And, I still actually ended up with like 2, 3, 1 KDs and stuff, so I wasn't like
Hmm.
getting slaughtered or anything like that. I did have rounds there, I must say, where I did get slaughtered, but overall I was doing sort of fine. I was kind of holding my own, but it was just like I didn't have the control and skill with that style of play anymore to sort of perform to the level that I would want to be at. But again, if I spent a month and a half practicing with it, I'm sure I would, but it's just I'd have to spend all that time doing it again, and it seems stupid seeing as I've actually learnt this other way of doing it. But I guess it's kind of an endless topic. It's quite subjective, really. It's all sort of down to people's opinions. Some people are going to care about it, some people are not going to care about it. But I think for me, the only thing that I would say is like so many things, one of the reasons why I don't do weapon reviews is because I just always say, like, you can choose the best setup and you can have the best skills and blah blah blah, but if somebody comes up behind you and puts a gun to your head, you're not really going to be able to save that situation. And but I don't mean that to be taken literally. What I mean by that is that sort of being tactical awareness and positioning are much more important than your specific skill sets, and which is why I've always said as well, like, me as a player, I'm not like the top most pro FPS player, by far, but I balance that against the fact that I tend to sort of think about what I'm doing perhaps a little bit more than some other people in the game, and therefore it tends to kind of balance out for me overall, because I get more opportunities to get on people without them sort of thinking that I would have been there, or I generally put myself in positions before people have a chance to react to get to that set, and so on and so on. So those kind of things it's like, again, it's a bit of a trade-off. That's what I really like about Battlefield, though, overall, is that it's that kind of game. It's not about one thing, whereas other titles, it tends to be just about like your certain skill. Do you know what I mean? Whereas with Battlefield, you can be sort of bad at one thing and it doesn't really matter. Have you found that as well? You'd like that?
Yeah, I think it depends. Like player counts obviously have a huge
Yep, it's true.
change on that. Like for PC, like I've noticed, like there's a really big line between a really good PC player and a really average player. Like there's a lot of space there. And I mean, one of the biggest ways you can improve in Battlefield is just learning where to be and where not to be.
Definitely.
And I think that really just changes based on the amount of players in the game. Even like obviously 64 players, you're going to have a lot less options.
Yeah,
You got to
sure.
really consider if you can run down this hallway without getting smoked by an M16.
Well, that's the thing.
So,
You are kind of limited, and it's one of the reasons why. It's one of the reasons why I always feel like 64 should be limited to certain maps in the same way that 16 is limited, to certain ones, or it's kind of, if you choose the close quarter maps, for example, they're limited. I just feel like that if you have a super small map or something like Conquest Metro, 64 shouldn't be an option because it's just stupid. It's not really a proper game. It's just a grind, and that's not really a proper game to me. So it's a bit stupid. But I know why people like it, obviously. But I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Anyway, we should probably wrap this up, guys, 'cause it's heading to an hour and it's time to sleep for me, by far and away, actually. It's pretty late. So thanks for this chat today, mate. Good to speak to you.
Yep, no problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, hope you've enjoyed. Please drop your comments below, as always. Might do another one of these in a little while. Haven't had these for a while. Let me know if you've enjoyed it. Let me know if you're a new listener and you enjoy it. And as always, I'll drop an MP3 download below. But if you've just listened to this, you already know that. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.